And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going into a mansion, an old haunted mansion. One of us is going to be a ghost. Ooh. The other ones are going to be psychics trying to figure out the dreams to put together the murder that happened here. We are talking about a very interesting game called Mysterium. It is for 3 to 7 players. Right now it's out of Portal Games is doing this out of Poland only. This is not yet available at this time, the time of recording this, in the US, but I hear this is coming over hopefully early 2015, being brought over by somebody that I can't say because it's not official. Let's check it out. It's basically like Dixit meets Clue. It's a cooperative and asymmetrical cooperative game. Let me show you. Now, as you can see, this is the Polish version of Mysterium. And now there's different rules between the Polish version and the original Ukrainian version. And some of the US rules were translated from the Ukrainian version first. And just recently, some translations of the Polish version came. So we will have some mix of different rules here. Just know that. So at the beginning of the game, everybody gets to pick a color, a person that they want to be. So we have, we got yellow, we've got red. Look at the cool artwork. We got green, blue, black, and white. And when you take your person, you take 2 colored tokens of each of the ones there. And then you have the clock here that will start here. Actually, you take one of those tokens, the other one goes to the ghost. Now, I have this set up for 4 total players. Now, in this game, it's a cooperative game where you're trying to figure out the culprit of who actually did the murder in the mansion, and you are trying to do that by giving clues. So it's a cooperative game, and it's asymmetrical. So if there's 4 players, there's always one player who's the ghost. We'll get to him later. The rest of you are psychics trying to get dreams to figure out the clues as to what actually happened. And so there's 3 things that you're going to be trying to figure out as the psychic side of things on the way there. We have this split up into 3 sections. We have the item, we have the location, and we have the person. Now this is set up for 4 players. It's set up for an easy game. In this case, we set up 6 characters, 6 locations, 6 items. Depending on the amount of people and depending on the difficulty that you want to set, there'll be more or less cards there. And here's a closer look at the 6 different items. Now, there's 4 total players, which means one of them is the ghost, which means only half of these are actually going to be in the dreams of the psychics. There's only 3 of those. So you're trying to get all the psychics to guess their dreams all the way before and finally find who the final culprit is before it gets to the end of the 7th day. There's essentially 7 rounds, so let's talk about how each of these rounds work. Now, I said there were 4 total players in the game, which means 3 of them are psychics and 1 of them is the ghost, and that would be me. So in this case, now there's cards out there. Each color, now I have randomly given them a person, a location, and an item card that has to be one of the ones that's out there. So I took all the ones that were out there, I shuffled them up, and I put 3 of them out of each. So each person, I know that this is the dream that they're having, and this is the dream I'm trying to show them that they have. So how a round works is basically I'm going to get 7 of these dream cards right here, and I'm going to have these in my hand. Let me show you what these look like. I'm going to show you very detail-oriented, very Dixit-ish. Lots of different details, lots of different things on the cards, lots of different things to interpret where you have items, or you have colors, or you have different shapes. Lots of different detail in some of these cards, different things to look at, different things to sort of portray or to even think about. So there's lots of different things here, and sometimes you look at them upside down, you see something different. So yeah, just different artwork that you might not normally see in different games, similar to Dixit. But yeah, very odd, strange, but unique artwork. So I have 7 cards in my hand. And again, 7 is a translation from the Ukrainian rules. I think the Polish rule says you only have 6 cards, but whatever. So I'm going to secretly, now nobody can, I'm on my own side of the table where all the other psychics cannot see. And I'm going to secretly look at this. And I can say, okay, the blue guy has the gun. The white guy has sort of poison. And the yellow guy has a rope. So between these, I'm trying to match up, give them a card or more than one card to try to describe what they have. Ooh, look at this one. This one has a rope in it. So I could give just this card to the guy who has the rope, or I can give more than one card. But if I give them more than one card, I have to give them both at the same time, because once you give a card to someone, you can't give them another card until the next round. So let's just give him this. I would give him this card. I'd say the yellow, and I would hand this to him. So here we have the yellow person, and they start with trying to find out the item, and then the location, and then the person. And again, this is kind of flipped because the Ukrainian version has you go the other way. Person, location, item. A little bit different there. So I'm going to give this to them, and they're going to put it right next to themselves. And at this point, now everybody who's a psychic, the 3 psychics here, will talk collaboratively as the ghost is looking to give the cards to other people. The psychic is looking at this card, and all of them are kind of talking about it, looking at the items, and trying to figure out which one are they talking about. So the psychics are looking at this, they're going, does he want this one because it's green on green? Or there's a bird there. This kind of looks like a feather. Maybe they're talking about birds. Yarn, I see a rope, which one? It could be a lot of different things. And they're going to try to talk about this, and as that's going on, the ghost is trying to figure out the other cards. Now after the ghost gives out a card or cards to that person, he will then draw back up to his hand limit. Again, depending on the version of game you're playing, 7 or 6. And they will continue to do this until they have given a card to each of the psychics that are out there. And after they've all received a card and they've all talked, they basically vote as each person will put a thing on their little token. They'll put it on the card that they think is the dream that they were talking about. So, and at that point, once they're all placed, the ghost will go through and say, White, I gave you this card and you're incorrect. And in that case, White gets to keep this card in front of them because I'm gonna add the clues to them in next rounds, and they get to take their token back. Here I say, Yellow, you are correct. I was talking about the rope, and you can either just flip it like this, or you can actually remove it from the game, whatever you feel. Blue, you're incorrect. And so they would keep their clue in front of them for the next round. And since the yellow player was correct, this goes back in the discard box because he was right. He doesn't need any more clues. And he's moving down to the location where everybody else is staying at the item level. And we're going to round 2, and we do the same thing again. Now the blue and the white players are still stuck on figuring out the items, and the yellow player now, I am going to go to his the location card and try to do the same thing. Once they figure out the item, the next round they go to locations. When they figure out the location, next they go down to the person. Now what we're trying to do is each person's got to get all 3 things correct. If they don't have all 3 things correct by the 7th day, game's over, you lose. If before the end of the 7th day you got all 3 things correct, then we're trying to make a final culprit accusation. So if we did successfully have everybody get all 3 right before the 7th day, when we're going on to the final phase of the game, trying to win it, we now know, each of those people know what item, what location, and what person they had the dream about. What we're trying to find out is which one of these things is true. Now this is very different, again, between the Ukrainian version and the Polish version, depending on which translation you read of the English rulebook. Now this is actually the Ukrainian version of the ending, which I like better, where I still have the same amount of cards. And what I'm trying to do is I got to throw down 3 cards. One of them is trying to point out the item, one of them is trying to point out the location, and one of them is trying to point out the person. I can't say anything, I can't look at any of these, I can't give any hints. I'm just going to throw down 3 cards in any order, and they are going to try to talk about which is the true thing that actually happened. So I might have thrown each of these 3 cards down, and they have to figure out which one of these are these 3 cards talking about. And it's not easy, really. I mean, this guy he's got music, so I put some paint because, you know, it's art and art. This one has like some archery and bullseyes, and this looks like a game room. And, you know, this guy looks like maybe he was poisoned. So that's what I'm thinking, but they may or may not take out the same thing. Now, if they get it right, and let's say we're in the end of round 5, we win. If we get it wrong, we go to the next round, and I don't get to put any more cards out. They just get to guess again and again. This is the Ukrainian version, where I believe the other version is you randomly select one of the people, and you throw out a card and try to get that right. But essentially, you're trying to get this final dream right at the end of the game, and you either win or lose, depending on you get it right before that. There's also a variant where 6 or 7 players is 2 ghosts to make it go faster. And there's also ways, depending on if you're on an easy or medium or difficult game, that you can get rid of these cards as the ghost and draw more. You can do it once per round on an easy game. You can do it 3 times per game on a medium game, and things like that to make your life a little bit easier, because it is not easy being the ghost. Wow, I played this game at BGG-Con and it blew my mind. I love Dixit, I love deduction with Clue, I love cooperative games. I love asymmetrical games. Put those 4 things together and you have this game. It is amazing. This thing, I'm glad I played it early in BGG-Con because I got a copy before they sold out, and these are the only copies there. You can't even buy it from Poland, or you can, but it's like super expensive to ship it. it might even be worth it because this game's amazing. Wow, what to say? You know what? I have a lot of people that love Dixit. My wife loved Dixit so much. It's one of her favorite games, but she still doesn't enjoy the part where you have to give the clue because she's not that creative. She doesn't like to be put on the spot. And this takes that out of there. I mean, you've got the beautiful artwork of Dixit, and you're trying to figure out the person, the place, and the thing that happened. You've got the ghost, who's should be the person who's the most experienced at the game. And if you play with 6 or 7 players, there's a variant from Portal that says you play with 2 ghosts. Now, yes, there's a bunch of different rule changes between the Ukrainian version and the Polish version, and there were translations of both rule books, and so I kind of mixed both of those sort of together, the ones I liked the most during the overview, and I'm curious to see what rules stick in the US version that comes out. Overall, everyone we played this with at BGG-Con loved it. I saw this being played everywhere. You know, when you're the ghost, it's really hard, but you've got to like look at those things and try to figure out which cards match. Now, the only problem I have with the game is the fiddliness of the ghost, because you have these cards face down with these colored tokens, and you're constantly looking at them one at a time, and then looking at your hand of cards, and you're looking at them, and it's very fiddly. I recommend, and what I use is like card holders. So you have the game Racco where cards slot in, or I have some wooden card holders where the ghost sits on one side of the table so nobody else can see behind his shield or his card holders, and you put the cards there. That makes the game play in about half the time, honestly, because flipping up those cards all the time is ridiculous. It just doesn't work well. It's the only thing I didn't like about the game. I'm hoping that whoever brings it to America will fix that, or if they haven't, just buy some card holders or a $5 Racco game and put the cards in there. It fixes that problem. It's the only problem I had in the game. Other than that, the game's amazing. Trying to look at these cards, figure out who they're going to put the cards down. And then when you're on the other side and you're talking with each other, because in Dixit, you play the cards and you're thinking alone and you're voting on something. Where here it's very collaborative and you're talking, well, maybe this means this because this has this color in it. It has this little piece. I think it's this one. Well, no, I see this and this. And to hear the different ideas of the creativity of these people and what they think they're doing. When you're the ghost, you can't say anything. You can't point anything. You just got to be quiet and you're listening to their feedback, and that will help you if you know they're going in the wrong direction. Well, they thought it was this. Maybe next time I can throw them a different clue. Very, very interesting. I love how the clues stay there if they're wrong, so you can add up and kind of subsequently give them more information, either going down that road or a different road, and then getting all 3. And then if you get all 3, getting that final dream. And I know that gets played out very differently between the Ukrainian version and the Polish version. I've tried them both. I actually like the Ukrainian version better of that part when you do the end. But man, what a game. It can be played with families. It's very fun for gamers. Wow, Dixit meets Clue. Asymmetrical co-op, amazing game. Don't miss it. When this thing comes to the US, grab it. Mysterium.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.